If one group of people tells me that safe spaces are more important than free speech, that highly processed fake meat is healthier than real meat, that getting fit makes you a right-wing jerk, and that trans athletes have a right to play in women's sports, you lose me. But not only do you lose me, but I'm running in the opposite direction to join the other team. This phenomenon seems to appear in so many different aspects of life. In physics, it's called Newton's third law of motion, which states that for every force, there's an equal and opposing force. In culture, we have tit-for-tat forces that are coming from the left and the right. The more one team forces people to adhere to their extreme and delusional narratives, the more the opposing team will not only reject them, but want to do the complete opposite out of spite. Adam Carolla gave a great example of this recently on Joe Rogan's podcast.
There's so many weird, soft sort of dudes like transitioning and all that shit. And then there's these sort of carnivore meat lovers, MMA guys going on. And it was Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew always says to me, where are we going? What's going on? Where are we heading as a society? When are we going to fix this, essentially? And I just said, safe spaces and octagons. He's like, what do you mean? I go, the fucking safe space people are going to go further that way. And then there's a group of people that are moving to Florida and moving to Texas, and they're going the other direction. Like in LA, when they started pushing electric cars, I started seeing tons of Ram dually pickup trucks popping up. Like for every one person you push into an electric car or a Prius, another dude buys a Ram and puts a gun rack on it. Like that's what we're doing. And I don't know how it's gonna end, but I can tell you, we're just going safe spaces and octagons.
I was gonna sneak this clip into my last video, but thought it would be a great starting point to talk about how this two-team society is affecting our everyday life. Our tit-for-tat culture is destroying us, and it seems nobody's willing to take the high road because, well, that just doesn't get as many clicks or engagement. The deeper problem is it's not limited to our online interactions, but flooding into the real world and having real-life consequences to our family, friendships, relationships, work, and community. That's what I want to talk about in this video, starting with family, because that's one of the most important things in life. But wow, do politics destroy families? There was a great comment on my last video from one dull geek that said, I have basically left Facebook entirely because I want to continue to like some of my family members. Their behavior on Facebook is significantly amplified compared to their behavior in person. Yet I have some family members who refuse to join gatherings if other family members will be there, due entirely to posts made on social media. My personal experience was that interacting with them in person just changed my perspective of them compared to on social media. And the in-person interactions was much more pleasant. I find both sides to be sad. This might ring true for some people, I know it does for me, and it really sucks because families should rise above everything. However, to be fair, there's always been a division in political beliefs between generations. The older being more conservative and wanting to hold on to their wealth, versus the younger are more liberal and wanting more access to resources to achieve their ambitions and goals in life. To account for people's differing beliefs, we'd often abide by the saying that we don't bring politics or religion to the table, and for a good reason, because it often didn't end well and just ruined the meal and the time spent together. But it now seems that younger generations are disowning their parents, and in some cases hard-left young adults completely cutting off all ties to their parents, out of differences in belief systems. To a certain extent, it's natural for kids and teenagers to want to do the exact opposite of what their parents tell them to do. Not allowed candy at home, you binge eat at your friend's house. Not allowed boyfriends or girlfriends, you go crazy at university. But this pales in comparison to examples in recent history of children turning against their parents. In Nazi Germany, children were taught to spy on their parents and report defeatist talk, criticism of the regime, listening to foreign radio, or refusing to join Nazi organizations. Consequences ranged from fines to concentration camps or execution. Also, in Stalin's purges, where children across the USSR were encouraged to report their parents for hiding grain, keeping religious icons, criticizing the regime, or any thoughts or words that made them an enemy of the people. Many parents were taken away to labor camps or executed. Thankfully, our freedoms are so much greater these days, but yet many of us, especially the young and impressionable, still fall victim to being indoctrinated by the extremes, on the left and the right. And honestly, I don't know if it's because they actually disagree with their parents as much as virtue signaling to maintain their status within their tribe. And this is so sad because most parents try their best to be good parents and work extremely hard to raise their children, to feed them, to change their diapers, to clothe them, to give them access to as many opportunities as possible, only years later to turn around and disown them. For what? For certain beliefs? It just really shows the limited mindset of these young adults. And as history demonstrates, their minds can be easily influenced by ideologies to commit the ultimate betrayal, rejecting their parents and family. This rarely ends well. Another thing our tit for tat culture affects is our friendships, and I'm gonna get a little personal with this one. It's no secret I'm opinionated, especially when it comes to women's sports, because I'm an athlete and I feel like I owe so much of who I am today to the opportunities I received through competing in sports. I will defend women's sports until the day I die. However, I also lost a number of friendships when I shared these beliefs here on my YouTube channel. And that's hard because we probably agreed on 90% plus of things. But yet we couldn't agree on this one issue, and so our whole friendship dissolved. All of our memories and time spent together, gone. And that's probably what hurts the most, all the shared life experiences together, going through the hard times where we had each other's backs, and going through extreme highs when we celebrated each other's wins. And yet now cut off, without even having a conversation or debate to see where our views differ, or where we might find common ground. Or more importantly, to reach out, to catch up, to celebrate the life changes that we've made since those days. Like new interests, travel experiences, marriage, children, and other achievements. Those are far more valuable and important to our friendship than our differences in opinion about trans athletes competing in women's sports. But yet we just cancel people we disagree with from our lives in hopes they'll make life better. But I'm not sure it does, because then we lose perspective, the push and pull, the people who challenge us on our beliefs and who may show us a different and potentially a better way. Instead, we seek people who will confirm our beliefs, sometimes in some deep dark corner of the internet that only further pushes us down the rabbit hole, potentially becoming more radicalized and pulling us further away from our family, friends, and loved ones. I think we need to ask ourselves, especially when it comes to family, if our difference in beliefs may have been formed from a place of hate or misunderstanding. Because if that's the case, I don't think the solution is further division, but actually to come closer, to have more conversations, to really understand each other's perspectives. Next is relationships. If you're on the right, would you date someone on the left? And if you're on the left, would you date someone on the right? Because unlike family, we get to choose our partner, the one we want to spend the rest of our life with. As more people use dating apps to find a partner, they can learn a lot about a person from their profile and social media accounts before even meeting them. So instead of choosing someone who might offer a different perspective and thus balance each other's views, we often choose someone who shares our beliefs. A comment in my last video was a great example of this. The comment from Buffalo Soldier said, "I sometimes battle it with my girlfriend, who initially tended to gallop into any leftist slippery slope, while she also caught me a few times slipping on some right-wing slippery slope, or defending something that was undefendable. I caught myself a few times defending right-wing figures as a flex, instead of really thinking through the position I should take. We try keeping ourselves in logical reality, despite media personalities presenting logical-sounding slippery slopes left and right. Now, obviously, we want a partner who shares similar morals and values to our own, but we should also want a partner that can open our mind to a different perspective and be complementary to one another as opposed to being the same. In some ways, I think this is why you see very liberal women wanting conservative men. They probably initially dated male versions of themselves, but it never lasted because there was no chemistry, balance, or sexual desire. I've said this a million times, men and women are different, but we're equal in value. And the more we allow politics or other crazy narratives to dictate our relationship choices, the more miserable, sad, and alone we will be. Next is work. Work culture is a real thing, and if you want to keep your job, you need to toe the company line. This includes not only how you show up at work, but also your opinions, views, and beliefs you share online. Until the day you leave, they own you. I once asked my brother to do a video with me, but he declined because sharing his real beliefs about the topics I discuss would violate his employment contract. In general, work culture has become a minefield, especially for men, with banter, jokes, or even political views now highly risky, because even people not directly involved in the conversation can take offense and seek the offending male to be dismissed. Men are also taking precautions to never be alone in a room with a female colleague, for fear of baseless accusations. For example, male bosses are bringing in HR or a witness when they have to criticize a female colleague's work for fear of an official complaint. People on both the left and the right have been fired from their jobs for expressing their personal views on social media. People can take offense to anything these days and find the person's place of employment and bombard the employer with negative reviews and comments until they are forced to fire the person to stop the attacks. For example, recently, many people lost their jobs because they publicly celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk, While it's always important to be a professional and be courteous and respectful to others, it sometimes feels like people make it their mission to destroy others they disagree with, ruining their lives and livelihoods, sometimes for common sense opinions and facts. When you take away people's ability to make money and support their family, it often just proves the insanity they're arguing against, potentially pushing them further to the extremes. Last point is community. Humans are social creatures, and community is an important part of our lives. It can be scaled on multiple levels. We have our global community, our country and national identity, our state or province identity, our city identity, our local community, and then you have all the sub-communities like sporting groups, social groups, clubs, military, ex-military, etc. Many of us belong to many communities and get value from belonging and having an identity within the group. Each community has social norms, which may have been formed for years, decades, centuries, and beyond. These social norms control the behavior and expectations of people within the community. But when those norms are weakened or attacked, the order starts to break down. Norms and order can only work when the community and majority effectively upholds them. It involves people signaling what is acceptable, correcting behavior verbally or through penalties, and in some cases as a backstop. Sometimes authority groups have to get involved to force some individuals to comply. For example, police and courts. However, it is the majority that maintains the social fabric by signaling the rules that make cooperation possible. This is where things get tricky these days. The highly vocal minority is pushing and attacking social norms. And when the community does not actively push back and allows or tolerates the increasingly loud noise, then negative behavior becomes normalized. Social responses become fearful, and eventually order, cooperation, and civility break down. We are seeing this today, and the crazy thing is that sometimes the loudest voices within the community are not even members of the community. You see this with bad actors from around the world trying to destroy democracy and Western values. Community is an increasingly valuable part of our lives, and if we don't cherish it, support it, and uphold it, we risk losing a very important piece of ourselves that we may never get back. At the end of the day, differing opinions and beliefs are a good thing. They help us see things from a different perspective and can help us learn, grow, and become better humans. But maybe this is only a feature of the good times, where people can have friends with opposing views and it not matter. Because often each side has valid points, but we've lost the forest for the trees as both sides take their arguments to the extremes. I don't know where this goes, but I think unity and bringing people back from the extremes is important to protect everything we love, value, and care for. What do you think? Have we reached peak division, or is this just the start of things to come? And what do you think is the solution? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. That's it from me on this video. If you like the work that I do, please give it a big thumbs up. It really helps the algorithm get out to more people. And if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. It would mean a lot. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks again. Bye.